Let's get it on then, shall we? Mwah. Welcome to Sex on the Peach, your weekly hump day dose of everyone's favourite untalked about topic, sex. Let's get honest, let's get open, let's get comfortable, and let's get into this week's show. It's that time of week again. It's hump day and sex on the peach day. I'm your host Peach, and today's episode is a super light-hearted, fun, open conversation with my gorgeous friend Kayleigh McKnight. Kayleigh and I are kindred spirits in that we are proud, promiscuous women who aren't afraid of enjoying sex or masturbation or pleasure. And so today's conversation is about all of those things. Sex toys, orgasms, solo play. There might be some things in there that might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that's okay. We also round off the episode with some funny sex stories and some would you rathers. Sometimes it's nice to just have a fun and free conversation, and we hope that you enjoy listening to it as much as we enjoyed having it. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Kayleigh McKnight, buzzing, literally. Kayleigh, thank you so much for joining me today, my sketchy little friend.
That's me.
I love that. It's two proud, promiscuous women.
Absolutely.
Here to talk to you all about
all things orgasm
and masturbation, which we are both huge
fans of.
Huge fans of it. 20% of women have never, ever masturbated.
Ever?
No, we're straight in. We're straight in.
What? That's straight in with the big headlines.
Yeah.
Literally not even had a little poke around.
Not once.
God, that's sad, isn't it? Like, not sad as in like, oh, as in like actually sad and depressing.
Right. But I mean, when are we ever taught to do that?
Well, this, and also, we're also sort of like, we're not even meant to give it its real name and things like that, you know, as kids, right? And I think we could all say as kids, we're all a bit curious and something feels funny and then you're like, ooh, but like, you don't know what that is. I mean, I certainly didn't know what any of that was until, I don't know actually, but I definitely did masturbate, but didn't know I was doing that.
100%
much later.
You accidentally like rub against something and you're like, oh,
that feels lovely.
That's a different sensation. Well, quite,
right.
Yeah.
Completely. And so in a way, I'm not surprised that there's 20% of women that haven't, but in other ways, I'm like, here's the other thing, right? And we're just diving straight into
straight
on the world of misogyny, but it's actually like way more in like current culture and like television movies about men masturbating. If you even look at American Pie, the movie, right, which we would have watched as kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Masturbating using a pie.
Yeah, he was just shagging that pie.
Like, where are any representations of women
humping
pleasuring themselves? None. I don't think there are any. There must be some by now, but back in that time, there definitely wasn't any. And if there is any sort of alluding to it, it's because someone's found this absolutely ginormous dildo in the back of a drawer that's covered in cobwebs or something.
Right.
And, you know?
Or it's because a female is doing it because there's a male present. You know what I mean? It's almost sort of, it's presented as a seduction technique rather than
self-pleasure.
A time, exactly, rather than a time to just like have a good time to yourself.
For yourself, yeah, which we should all have. I'm sorry, 20%. Hopefully one of those people is watching this and this can be your first insight into what it is. And
do you remember the first time that you masturbated?
No, but I definitely remember being young and finding things and being like, that feels funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't remember the first time at all. And I don't even remember what would have prompted me to even have tried it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just such a funny thing. I think as kids, like you so don't understand that it's taboo until maybe you're like 11, 12, and then suddenly you start
or like
getting
even
taught about,
into your teens.
yeah, and you start getting taught about sex, and then you realize it's such a bad thing. Obviously it's not, but you feel like it's such a bad thing that sort of exploration stops, which is why so many women do not know how to communicate their needs in the bedroom.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
mean, I have friends who don't really masturbate.
Yeah,
and
same.
For me, that's unfathomable because, as I've stated many times before, it's part of my daily life. Like I struggle to function without it because sometimes it increases my productivity. I'm like, listen, what I need to get up and get stuff done. Like, what am I going to? I'm going to masturbate and then I'm going to get up.
Yeah,
sometimes it's going to put me to sleep. I just feel like it just fills so many like gaps in my day.
Who needs coffee? Have a wank.
Both, really, both is the ideal.
You know, I want to get it on a t-shirt, by the way. No, but genuinely, is that thing of I'm the same as you. Like, if I can't sleep, reach into the drawer. Let's go.
Although I did see a meme the other day, which I posted, which was, do you ever start masturbating and be like, no, that's not it. Maybe I'm hungry. But I get it because I have felt like that, but I'm going to finish anyway.
Yeah.
You know
oh, yeah. It's like, oh, this is kind of fine.
I can get to that end goal. So I looked up earlier, there was just this thing that said, I'm not going to read out all the star signs because I don't have it on me, but I've looked up ours and it was just like a little new thing for you to try. Mine, I'm a Scorpio, and mine was try a new position, which I feel mildly attacked because, you know, I'm all about communicating, exploring new things and making sure that, you know, you're having those conversations and that you are sort of up for being open-minded and seeing what your partner wants in the minute. Anyway, when it comes to masturbating, I'm like, nope, I know what works.
Lie back, do my thing. So men out there like complain that women just lie back and do nothing. You've got your sex toys are like, come on, do something.
They're like, please, God, just try a different position. I am sick of this.
No, but I think that most women probably do the same. Mostly because, though, when I'm masturbating, I know it's going to be over very quickly because I know exactly what to do to get it done.
Right. And I always read articles and it's like, fair, do you know what? If you want to expand your masturbatory experiences, then I absolutely am here for it.
Yeah.
But they're always like, set the scene. Whereas I'm like, it's whatever
light a candle,
whatever I'm wearing.
Burn some incense. No.
Set the scene, and it's like, touch yourself all over. And I'm like,
do you know what that reminds me of? Have you seen The 40-Year-Old Virgin?
Yeah.
You know that scene when he gets the porn and he's going to like watch the porn for the first time? Do you remember this? And he literally does like light a candle and he sits in bed and he like pulls the cover off and then he like can't do it.
Yeah.
It's like very that. I think people think, or maybe, I don't know, but.
No, one of my exes had like a whole thing if he was going to.
Like a routine?
Not like, well, I guess a routine, but like it was never just, I'm just going to.
Just going to do it.
It was never just, I'm going to have a wank. It was always like. It was like all clothes off, which I thought was really interesting. I'm not a naked person at the best of times, so
I just had a vision of some guy being like, I need a wank, and just starts taking his top off.
As with everything, obviously no judgment, whatever
no,
works
not
for
at
you,
all, but I would never think about that. Because a man could just literally unbuckle his trousers and then it's there.
You don't even have to take anything off. Sometimes I'm like, I'm annoyed, I'm wearing pyjama bottoms and I'm like, oh, it's actually a faff. Like, can I make this work through the pyjama bottoms so I don't have to take them off?
The classic through the underwear wank. Everyone's done it.
I love a through the underwear.
I love a through the underwear too.
On a serious note, I've got the giggles, but I have so I speak to women and vulva owners a lot about this because I kind of want to make sure they're prioritizing their pleasure, obviously, always. It's like my main thing. And a lot of women have said, oh, with toys, like I feel a bit too sensitive, like it almost is. And I'm like, darling, it's through the underwear.
Yeah.
That's the way.
Yeah. And especially if at the beginning, because like I think over time, like you also get used to it. Like in the beginning, it's always like, whoa.
Well, the first time I had an orgasm was with a vibrating dildo, but I didn't use the dildo. I just used it as a vibrator.
The vibrations, yeah.
And like, I did not know what on earth was happening.
Babe, it's the first time is always like, you feel like you're about to combust.
My three best friends bought me that as a birthday present. Obviously, they knew they were actually starting young, and it was pink, sparkly, vibrating dildo from Ann Summers, obviously.
Of course.
They bought it for my birthday, and I was absolutely buzzing, literally. And went straight home that night. And at that point, that was for my 16th birthday, and I lost my virginity at 15, so I'd already been having sex, but orgasms were like not even a thing.
A myth.
Mildly considered. I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like at this point, we're just putting things in places.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like pleasure's not a conversation or a thing that's on the table. We're just, I guess, putting things in holes and hoping for the best.
Yeah, completely.
So they got me this vibrator and I took it home, and I almost didn't realize it had happened, but at the same time I was like, what on earth is happening to my entire body?
Yeah, for sure. It is the strangest thing. Do you know what? I've had that recently. I think I've said this to you over cocktails.
Yeah, we wished we recorded that. We had a fantastic drunk conversation.
That conversation should have just it should have just been the episode. But I bought. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's actually called the Satisfier. But there's also a version of it called the Rose, which is like super, super popular. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah.
God tier. And it's a God tier sex toy.
It's a clitoral suction toy, which is a new type of sex toy that's kind of come about in the last couple of years. And it's a game changer. And when I say I am recommending it to every single person I know with a vagina, with a vulva, I am recommending it. Because actually, to be honest, I'm recommending it to men too, because using it during sex is the best thing.
Get that on your partner.
Oh my God.
Get it on there.
Get it on your partner's clitoris, because they will have the best orgasm of their entire life. And it is just, So I know that feeling. I've had it recently.
And also let us say that the men and penis owners out there who see sex toys as their friends and not their competitors.
Friends.
We salute you. However, the ones who don't, listen, we haven't been taught that way, so I get it. But I am definitely trying to advocate for more men to see lube and sex toys and all of these things. They are just some extra little things to bring joy into your sex life. They are not going to replace you.
They're toppings on top of the cake. They're not the actual cake.
Exactly.
You know? Maybe I want some sprinkles.
It's like the chocolate on top of the cappuccino.
Exactly. I still, like, this is the thing. I've had partners where we've used toys and then had sex where we don't use toys, and both is great. You know?
It doesn't have to be every time.
No.
But sometimes if it's just not happening, that little addition can just kick something into a new gear.
And that's the thing as well. I think it's hard for men sometimes to understand that for women, coming and having an orgasm is like 80% of the time a psychological thing. You have to be super relaxed. You have to be really comfortable to let go in that situation. And some women biologically, people with vaginas and vulvas can't orgasm through penetration alone.
Well, 18% of women and vulva owners do. 18%.
Do just 18?
Yeah.
Do come from penetration?
18% of women and vulva owners come from penetration. Yeah.
That's really, again, I say it's sad because it's just like,
I think as well that's hard for I mean, as people who are like, well, obviously don't orgasm through penetration and to be fair, it's way less for me.
Way less.
But as someone who orgasms every day, I just don't even like to think about people not orgasming. Like in the same way, it makes me sad because I'm like, I want you to have that. There are people who don't feel like they need that and their sex drive doesn't lead them that way. And obviously I want to always make space for people in the asexual community who just don't 100%. Have those feelings. But for people who do, I want that pleasure to be a huge part of their life. Like it's important. And
this is why having conversations about sex toys with your partner should always be something that's about sharing the experience together. And I think some men feel fearful about using toys because, like you say, they feel like they're being replaced, when actually it's nothing to do with that. It's actually more going, okay, my partner doesn't come via penetration. They need clitoral stimulation as well. What can we do as a team, me, my partner, and my sex toy, to make this work? And, you know, like as you say, you don't have to do it every time, but all of it's a dialogue, isn't it? And some sex toys don't work for some people as well. Like some sex toys are great for some and not for others. And
absolutely. Imagine being able to have sex and have someone go down on you at the same time. Obviously, obviously that can happen if you were having sex with multiple people in one experience. But I mean, with your
partner,
singular partner.
Yeah.
And listen, these little suction toys, baby,
I mean,
get that going for you.
Truly.
I'd also like to bring the Bellessa Pebble to the table.
Oh,
which
please do tell.
It's a suction toy and vibrator. Yeah.
Great. I'll get on the internet later.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, it's very small. Very no, you know what? It's quite loud. I was going to say it's very discreet, but it's a little loud. But you know what? Who cares?
It's not any louder than having sex, surely.
Well, do you know what? We're going to get onto the would you rathers later.
Oh,
I might drop some in just throughout. I'm going to drop in a question because we've been sent in some questions, obviously.
Oh, yeah, nice.
And someone has said, which I think is an interesting one, because we're going to have a strong answer to this one.
Oh, God, okay.
What do you think of the premise that if you have a partner or are in a relationship, you shouldn't masturbate?
Yeah, not for me personally.
No.
Some people might want to. Look, I can see a viewpoint where some people wouldn't want to, so they can just save themselves for having sex, right? I can see that viewpoint. I don't think it's biologically a thing. You don't have to save yourself. There's ample amount of orgasm within you
to go around.
to go around.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's something that you need to do. I personally am happy for my partner and myself to masturbate in our relationship. As long as they're not, you know, masturbating with someone else, then I'm fine. Unless, of course, you're in an open relationship and that's cool for you guys. But, you know, if I'm in an exclusive relationship, I'm very happy for my partner to do his thing and I do mine, because some days I might be up for it and he's not, or that she's not, and vice versa. And like,
I think as well, like, if you are deciding that you don't want to masturbate now that you are in a partnership or relationship, that's completely up to you.
Completely.
Of course, as is anything. Like, it's completely your choice. And if that's what you want, then you shouldn't then feel pressured to be like, people are telling me I should be masturbating even though I'm in a relationship. You've got to do what feels right for you. However, if your partner is telling you, now we're together, I don't want you to masturbate, I think that's a completely different thing, because that's also suggesting, I definitely feel like this goes more for women and vulva owners, because we've always been suggested that our entire sort of like sexuality is owed to men and penis owners. But I think that if you are being told by your partner, then it's essentially saying that your partner then owns you sexually because like you don't have the space to have your sexual self anymore. They have all of that, and you then don't have the space to continue exploring with yourself. So I think like that's the difference. If that's your choice and you don't want to masturbate and you want to say that all for your partner,
go for it.
You do what you want to do. There's no right or wrong. There's no normal. There's no weird. It has to be what feels right for you. But if your partner is telling you that you shouldn't be masturbating now you're in a relationship, I'm going to say red flag.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's a big old conversation where you go, I don't see why you should be dictating my sexual urges, because they're yours, not theirs.
And it's a constant source of sexual growth.
Completely. It's a
I say that I'm like, I
yourself.
literally masturbate the exact same way twice a day, every day.
Yeah, but
and
that's
I'm
only
like, I'm growing.
That's only because you've had that conversation with yourself multiple times and you know it works, babe.
Like, I'm being really hypocritical. Like,
no, but to be fair to you though, Peach, to be fair, if one day I bought you I don't know why I would, but something that you would never use, I guarantee you would use it.
Of course, I'd use it that day.
Exactly, because you'd want to explore what that means for yourself.
I'd lie in the same position and I'd have my underwear on. I'd be like, I know what works. So if the toy doesn't do this for me in
3 minutes,
2.5 minutes, then it's the toy's fault. It's not my lack of...
Like, God, this needs new batteries.
It's not my lack of exploration. No, but in all seriousness, I do think that obviously, and at this point, I mean, since I took that vibrator home when I was 16 years old, and masturbated that night and had my first orgasm, I've pretty much masturbated every day since. So we're talking now like another 16 years of masturbation and orgasms. So I'm like, I've reached a point where I'm like, I'm cool with what works for me.
Yeah, completely.
Whether in the beginning, and I think obviously when we're talking about take sex toys off the table, manual stimulation as well, which obviously I've done, it just takes a bit longer, so I'm less likely to do it.
Agreed.
But it's so important because if you, with a toy, of course you can guide your partner on how to use a toy on you. But I think obviously if you're talking about, you know, using your hands and stuff, it makes it so much easier to say to a partner, hey, this is what feels good for me. And even
completely,
if you are, I guess, penetrating yourself, for want of a better word, with your fingers, you're going to learn where things are inside and like what angles feel good for you, and like
completely.
And that might be definitely a way in which I could take on board the try new position, because obviously that's how you learn as well, like in terms of sexual positions, what angles you're at and what, you know, what is rubbing the right thing for you.
You don't want to learn the hard way.
Anyway,
which is not very fun being like, oh God, no.
Oh God, oh my God, you're poking my cervix.
You're destroying my stomach. Yes.
Your one was use a different vibrator. So maybe this is your sign to get yourself a pimple.
The Satisfier is going to stay in the drawer tonight, friends.
I'm obsessed with that. It's called the Satisfier.
The Satisfier. Yeah, it's like such a butch name, and it's just this tiny little orange thing. It kills me. Well, it's so small yet so powerful.
I was just going to say they're small but mighty. Like they just don't need to be. What more do you need? And also, on average, women masturbate 53 times a year.
So once a week, basically.
It's. I guess we're
Me
on.
And
like,
you were out there ruining that average.
Down to the, you know, we're on the high side. So there's obviously a lot of people lower if we're bringing it to. Yeah. To the middle.
That's really interesting, actually. But I also wonder if like that's taking into account where people are in relationships and so they have sex rather than masturbate potentially. Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Like I think, as you say, that conversation, that dialogue with your body and with yourself shouldn't stop. So that we're not getting stuck in a routine sexually with our partner and with ourselves. And, you know, also I think our sexual desires and our needs and our urges completely change.
All the time.
And grow all the time. Like you might discover a kink that you didn't know you had before or... You know,
a new body part that you're like, oh my God.
I love the way
how random is that
feels.
That's really nice.
And then that can just bring so much to your sexual, you know, life with your partner. Basically, I'm very pro masturbation. Otherwise, I wouldn't be on this podcast. But it's the way forward, friends. Have a wank.
Do you have like preferences in terms of if you're going to masturbate, would you watch porn or do you just go with your imagination?
I mostly just use my imagination. I think most women actually do that. I'm sure I've read that somewhere. Mm-hmm. But maybe you'll have some interesting figures on that. But
I don't.
I've definitely read that somewhere that women are more likely to use their imagination than their male equivalent. So mostly use my imagination. And I might not even be thinking of anything specific. Like, sometimes I think about specific people, but other times I definitely don't. Or I'll probably think about people I shouldn't be. But
listen,
also
sometimes they're the best ones.
Exactly. But sometimes I do watch porn, but it's only lesbian porn.
So interesting. So before I sort of, well, and Kayleigh, for anyone listening, Kayleigh identifies as bisexual.
Indeed.
Correct? And I identify as pansexual. So obviously we both have sex with both penis owners and vulva owners. But to be fair, there are a lot of women out there who fully identify as straight but love lesbian porn.
Absolutely.
And I've had a lot of people say to me, I feel like this is really weird. And I'm like, I promise you, it is not weird at all.
It also doesn't mean that you're queer.
Common. Yeah, it's so common.
I think there's two reasons for it.
It's just nice. It's nice to watch.
Yeah, the first one, it's so much nicer to watch. The more kind of like aggressive lesbian porn is even still kinder than some of the stuff that you'll see on the heterosexual side of things. I just can't watch it. Because most of it just looks too abusive, if I'm being completely straight with you.
And I think it's seeing female pleasure.
And that's my other point. Is that watching, you nailed it. Watching women have sex and orgasm is, as a woman, is like so lovely.
Whatever video you're watching, whatever scenario they are in, you know, however many people are involved. Whether it is rougher or gentler, you are literally seeing a female's pleasure be prioritized. And quite often in male-female porn, that really is not the case.
And a lot of it is borderline abuse and assault, really.
Well, there's a lot of unethical porn.
Yeah.
Obviously, as everyone knows, I work with the company Bellessa, and their porn is all ethical. Even the straight porn is geared towards female pleasure. And also, I find it important to support sex workers and to support the ethical porn industry. So I choose to pay for their porn. And I used to watch a lot more porn than I do now. And I have, like, in the past couple of years, become a huge fan of a bit of erotic literature, because it's like the perfect mix of something visual and your imagination.
But can I one up you on that? What's better than reading it?
You're going to say audio
porn. Audio porn, if you have not experienced it, is honestly so good. It is so good, because some of it's POV. So you'll just be listening, and then you're like, ooh, better reach into that drawer. Do you know what I mean? It's so good. I'm thinking back on an episode I listened to recently, being like, there's like, honestly, it's so good.
You're like, we need to take a break from the podcast.
Right, bye everyone. No, I fully recommend it. I also love reading erotic fiction. I read a lot of just general fiction books that have more of a sexual element to them anyway, but audio porn, it's the way.
And I think it's because, you know, with a lot of porn videos, it's because I love a story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like a sort of like a bit of context as to how did these people end up here?
No, but that's why the audio porn is so good. Or like a
scenario. Right, absolutely. But sometimes with porn videos, it's just, there's no story. They're just like,
hey, here's a pizza. And then it's like.
And sometimes not even that.
Not even that.
Just straight in. And I'm like, oh, I need a bit of a build up.
Yes,
because
agreed.
I think for women and vulva owners in an actual sexual experience with someone as well, build up is so important.
Oh, yeah. It's key. It's not going to happen. Yeah. I mean, it's very unlikely that it will happen if you're going straight into it, unless there's a context. But usually if there's context, that means you will jump straight into it. It's because it's been built up over a long amount of time. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
like you've been waiting for that moment to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yes, I think the variations on porn, actual visual porn, like video porn, is just for women, as we're saying, it's just not catered for that audience. And I know that there are porn companies now that are run by women for women.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so important, because there's nothing wrong with us having porn. A lot of porn is awful.
Exactly.
And I think that some porn, if it's made correctly and it's got people's health and, you know, safety when it's being made in mind, I think it's really good. I actually saw, interestingly, some TikToks, not porn.
Okay.
But, it's people, it's a porn company and a production company, and they show like behind the scenes. Obviously no one's naked and no one's filming, but it's all like, what do we do before we start a shoot? And it's like these actors who make, in inverted commas, corn, because they can't talk about it on TikTok or they'll get banned. You know, people sending questions, and they do these videos talking about how they set up for the day, and do they take water breaks? What happens if one of them farts? Like, do they get the giggles? And it's really interesting because it kind of humanizes that and the correct kind of ethical, well-made porn, and it kind of humanizes that function of what it is and what they're trying to provide, and also in the way they're trying to provide it, which I think is really interesting. Weird that it's on TikTok, but I appreciated seeing it. I'm not sure it should be on something like TikTok, which is kind of geared at children, but that's a different story altogether, isn't it?
I mean, I guess if they're going to see it kind of in a healthier way.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
Twitter.
Oh, I know.
Twitter is a minefield of very aggressive porn.
I know.
Which I didn't even know.
It's like very, very explicit video content, image content. And you just think, like, how is that stuff getting online?
It is like just porn chaos.
It really is. No, but also, like, it kind of made me dive into this, like, world of, I just find it fascinating. But women who, they basically search for pay pigs, and they essentially will insult whoever's paying for it. It's basically a form of domination, and then they'll send money. And it's like this kind of thing. And women are out there on Twitter making money from basically insulting men and being like this is my
the
Venmo.
Opposite to a praise king.
100%. It's degradation. That's it. There we go. Degradation.
Which I didn't even realise I had until I was like, well, I just simply love it when someone calls me good girl. So maybe I do.
I'm dead. But yeah.
Oh well.
But yeah, sorry, that's a complete off topic. But I just found it super fascinating that there's this whole sub-world of Twitter.
Whole community.
And it's like, yeah, this whole kind of
people who want and like that. And like, no one's talking about that. No one's, well, I don't know that that's something that you would have in like sex ed at school. But I think like it gets to a point when you're older where like conversations might happen and you might be like, and listen, there are people who get off on being insulted. There are people who get off on being praised. Yeah. And I get asked quite a lot on my anonymous link if I'm going to do an episode about foot fetishes, which I'm not, but I am going to do an episode about kinks, and that is one, because everyone's made to think that anything they like that's out of the ordinary is like
this crazy
weird and
fetish.
Problematic.
Yeah, it's not. Like everyone has their kinks.
Yeah, but the thing is most people don't know what they are.
No, completely, because they don't get an opportunity to explore sexually.
Yeah.
As you say, like within the whole kink subgenre, you'll find there's this whole community of people who are, you know, the sex party community and all of that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not involved in any of that, but I find that all fascinating as well. And I think part of me is like, oh, I wish I was brave enough to try it, but I just don't think I am.
Babe, we'll go.
Oh, gosh.
We'll go
Pete, you'll have to hold my hand.
That's fine. Listen, I haven't been actually for quite a long time. I used to go to an event quite a lot. It has changed now. But I basically went the first time because I knew someone who ran the event and they asked if I wanted to. And I was like, I'd like to just come and see what it's about.
Yeah.
And I went, and like that first time I went, nothing ever happened. But I just sort of like observed. And I don't mean in a voyeur way.
No.
I just mean I observed the situation and the experience. And it was one of the most open-minded, of course. Yeah. But I think at that age and at that time, I didn't quite understand. But then I was like, that is the most open-minded environment I've ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And it was a space for anyone who felt like they were out of the ordinary to go and explore those things about themselves. And so everyone was open to talk about literally anything, because I guess how can you not be when you're in that environment?
Yeah.
There were a lot of kinks and fetishes that I immediately saw and was like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
And I can tell from how that makes me feel that isn't going to be for me.
Yeah.
But I also saw someone, I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's interesting. I like that. But you know, there were so many things I saw that I was like, that's not going to be for me. But like, I'm so glad that people have these spaces to go and
have that
explore
experience,
those things about themselves. But I also wish it didn't have to be that way, and they had to be lived out in like events and spaces. And I wish that people could just feel like they could be more open in general about them. But we're taught that like anything that isn't like missionary girl on top or doggy. What do you mean you like wearing latex? What do you mean you like being walked on with stiletto? You know what I mean? All of that stuff is minor stuff, but still would be viewed as like, oh, that's a
very
bit
extreme,
weird.
Yeah, completely. It's super interesting. I will definitely be listening to your fetish episode, because I find the whole thing fascinating, because I think, like you say, so many of us don't really get to explore in the ways that we probably would want to.
But, you know, we're not sort of spending our daily lives in those sort of atmospheres that give you that information. And that's obviously just not a part of education, is anything out of the ordinary isn't a problem. You probably just have a kink.
What we're learning here is that our sexual education in this country, or just generally, it's probably worldwide,
is just not good.
Rubbish.
Because I read earlier as well that 87% of people, not even women and vulva owners, of people said they were not educated about masturbation. 87%. That's wild.
And why are we not having resources for younger people that safely teaches them about sex and pleasure, and so they're not resorting to going on to porn and learning about all sorts of horrific stuff.
Learning about sex in just a terrible, terrible way.
Like the most backwards way. It's like it's like learning to cook by like surprised. I don't know, like throwing everything into a deep fat fryer. Do you know what I mean?
But I'm also not surprised that sort of then men and penis owners, if that's the only education they've had, I'm then not surprised that they're growing up with quite a misogynistic attitude towards sex, because that's all the information they have to go on. So, you know, I don't blame or judge. I just want to change it.
Yeah, completely.
On that note, actually, that takes us to another question, because someone has sent in, do you ever feel judged amongst friends, not partners, actually, so that's quite interesting. Do you ever feel judged about friends, not partners, for having a high body count? Now, I know that question was aimed at me, but luckily for you all, me and Kayleigh can both quite comfortably answer this question. You got 2 for the price of 1.
Woo! Do my friends judge me? I would say no.
If they do, it's
Have
silent. They'd never do it if they tell me.
No, and to be honest, none of them judge me for that, for the body count. Do some of them, not judge is the wrong word, are some of them concerned about some of the experiences that I've put myself in? Sure.
Okay.
And then I've come out being like, yeah, you're probably right, that was a bit stupid. Do you know what I mean? And I think I can put my hands up and say I've been a very silly girl sometimes and put myself in some very sticky situations, but that's not meant to mean literally.
Well, when I was speaking with Katie, she said she's not had non-consensual sex, but there's definitely been experiences where she doesn't feel like it's been completely consensual either. But she wouldn't say it's non-consensual because she hasn't said no.
No.
But looking back, maybe not also yes.
Yeah, I've definitely said to people in the past that there's been situations where my mind has been changed and I felt like I couldn't say no. And people go, what? Of course you can say no. And I'm like, yeah, in theory.
But you're not there in that moment.
You're not there in that moment.
Absolutely.
And you know, you're vulnerable in those situations.
Completely.
You just are. Like, and it's sometimes it's awful thing to say. Sometimes I've been in situations where I've gone like, it'll be fine. I'll just
power through. Yeah, no, me too.
And you know, so my friends, you know, in those sort of situations, they don't judge me, but they have been like, Kayleigh,
wish you wouldn't have done
that. And to be fair to Kayleigh now, that was a few years ago, and I was in a bit of a wild time, and you know, probably not dealing with my emotions in a very healthy, cathartic way, and I was using things like sex to try and get a grip on how I was feeling.
It was a coping mechanism.
Completely. But do they judge me for my body count? No. If anything, they love it.
I honestly think if any of mine do, then it's silent. I don't think they would ever. I don't think they'd ever say it to me. Just because I think they know I wouldn't care, so there's literally no point pissing her off for no reason. But I wouldn't be pissed off, but they'd be like, "There's no point having the conversation because it's just gonna like throw an insult into the works for absolutely no reason." Because I'd be like, "Cool, but what? Why? What do you mean?"
Well, the issue with that question, that question kind of says straight up, like, the person asking it or whatever, like they maybe do care about or maybe they don't, but they're wondering if. And so whereas I have never cared about
Me
that.
either.
I have never been like, I'm going to meticulously count how many people.
Well, I have no idea.
Like,
when people,
I don't know how many.
Ask mine, I'm like, couldn't tell you, darling. No, I couldn't tell you by the time I was like 19. I was like, well, I don't know.
No, but why would I keep tally?
Right.
And also, like, I just don't understand that concept of keeping count. Like, I'm not doing it to get my numbers up. I'm having sex with people because I want to have sex with them.
And I'm in the moment, and that's just how the night ended. Or the
I'm not going
to
sit there.
Or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit there in front of a really gorgeous human being who I really want to have sex with and go, you know what, though? That'll take me over my limit this year. You know, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's the whole concept of it.
But if I have sex with you, it is going to decrease my value as a woman, so I can't.
Oh, no. And this is the thing. It's like if I actually cared about it, I just wouldn't have sex.
But if you did actually care about it, I'd be like, please don't care about it. It doesn't matter.
This is it.
No one's going to be on their deathbed and be like,
I
just wish I slept with less people.
Oh, exactly.
You know what I mean? I'm not saying that anyone's going to say I wish I slept with more people either, but it's just when you get to the end of your life, who's going to care? I'm like, listen, I've got some great stories out of it. I've got some great experiences. And listen, there are some individual experiences that I'm like, I could have done without that, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, and exactly what I was saying. But most of what I've done, I've had a lovely old time.
But also... So they interestingly have said amongst friends, not partners, but I am going to ask the question to you. Have you ever felt judged by a partner? Have you ever lied about it?
I've never lied.
Okay, well done.
I've always said I have high, in quotation marks, body count. Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact number, so I can never be like, I've only had sex with like this many people. But like, I had one guy on a date actually recently. And I don't know why this came up into conversation, but we were talking about sex. And I think I said something like, would body count matter to you? And he was like, I just don't want to know.
Okay.
He's like, I just don't want to know. Whatever you've done in the past is your business and not mine. And I was like, that's refreshing.
Yeah, so fair.
Also kind of like, but if I told you that I'd slept with 300 people, for example, would you then not like me?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was like, but no, I mean, I've never had a partner be like, well, no, I can't be with you now because you slept with this many people or whatever. In some relationships, it's meant that like we've had really open sexual conversations about things and they've turned out to be more of an active participant in like the sex party community or something than I'd first thought of and things like that. Because suddenly they think that because I have got sexual experience and I've not just slept with 3 people, that suddenly we're on a level playing field and we can actually have a conversation about it. Because for men, it's completely fine to be a participant in multiple sexual partners and all sorts of
doesn't matter if it's 1 or 1,000, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I'm always like, never gonna lie, because what's the point?
That's good.
It's too much a part of like who I am, and I'm a very sexual person and I like to have a healthy sex life with my partner. So I can't suddenly have a load of interest in sex and then, you know, tell them I've slept with 2 people.
I guess unless those 2 people had been other long-term relationships that you'd had very active sex lives with.
Yeah. I've also been single for like 5-6 years now. I've had like short relationships within that time, but I've not had a long-term partner in a really long time. So I think someone would know I was lying.
See, my issue is I had been in kind of one long-term relationship after another. And so people would be like, but how did you fit all these people in? Which was always a really problematic question. But so I'm like, obviously like not about lying. However, when I first met my now ex-husband, because listen, I just found out I'm divorced. Woo! Yay!
Woo! Get that vibrator out and celebrate tonight, girl.
9.5 years later.
Wow.
His divorce. I've got my own surname back. I'm back to being a miss. I mean, I hate that. I'm not interested in it. I think I get cheaper council tax because I'm now single and not married.
Yay!
But anyway, I digress. My ex-husband, and listen, he's a little bit of a misogynist. We're just going to say it. But the first time he told me how many people he'd slept with, which I'm not even sure why, because I don't care. I'm not like, I don't want to know, but I'm like, you don't have to tell me, because I really don't care either way. But
I don't care either.
He was a little bit of a misogynist, and sort of, I had that, I loved him. I had that that feeling like it might be a problem.
Oh,
and so when he and he was also like 9 years older than me.
Oh God. Help.
But when he told me his number, I was like, same. It was like nowhere near it. I was like, exactly. Oh my God, it's meant to be. We're exactly the same number. But then he was kind of like, well, I'm 9 years older than you. So anyway, it obviously came out further into our relationship because I'm not a good liar anyway.
No,
and I'm
neither.
surprised I even got away with that in that moment. And obviously just into our relationship, he was like, well, wait, I thought it was this many. And I was like,
I lied.
I was like, oh, I think like I was just talking about like long-term sexual partners.
Oh, help.
Peach. Yeah, and it was all a bit messy. And so I think, but to be fair, that's the only partner that I have felt judged by. However, I have had the odd partner admit, which I really appreciate, admit that it has then made them feel a little insecure. But that's fine because they've told me.
Yeah.
We can have that conversation. It's literally not going to make any difference because whether I've had sex with one person, 100 people, 1,000 people, my experience with you sexually is going to be completely different to all of those sexual experiences because you're a new person. So it's not going to make any difference how many people have been before. Yes, my sexual taste might have been expanded by experiences, but again, that's something we can just communicate as and when it comes up.
I think this is what people don't understand. Like, it's not like the more you ride a bike, the better at riding a bike you get. Every time you have sex with a new person, it's like riding a new type of vehicle. Yeah, it's not even a bike anymore. This time it's a tractor. The next one's a lorry. Do you know what I mean?
And
You're having to learn how to use gears and how to drive automatic, you know?
Absolutely. And
I love a metaphor. Have you noticed?
I'm completely here for it. I'm completely here for it. And like, I'm anti-using, obviously we know I'm anti-using language and words like good or bad in terms of sexual experiences, because I think what works for you might not work for someone else and all of that. But,
completely.
you know, I, at this point, have been having sex for like 15 plus years, but I sometimes, you know, even now have sex that doesn't work for me as good as sex did that I had 12 years ago.
Completely.
And that's not because it's bad. It's
You've got rusty.
It's not because my value as a woman is decreasing. It's because it's just all about compatibility. It's all about that collaboration. And by the time I'm like, and communication is obviously key. By the time I'm 60, I'll have been having sex for like, what is that, 45 years. And I'm sure then I'll be having, sometimes I'll be like, oh, that just didn't really work for me. You know what I mean? So I just don't see how it's in any way relevant.
It's not relevant is the answer.
Well, exactly. That is.
End of the podcast. Goodbye.
Drop the mic.
I wish I could. It's attached. Sorry. Good question though. Really like genuinely good question. Because I've been asked that on a different channel recently. Similar kind of vibes. Yeah. And like it's just really interesting that it's such a hot topic, especially for women. Yeah. And it's
because no one says to men and penis owners, hey, do you feel judged on your body count? Do you know what? They'd probably feel more judged if it was like 2.
Yes, completely this. Yeah, completely. Which is it's just bizarre.
Yeah. It's like it's completely the opposite end of the spectrum, because then people are like, well, why aren't you shagging around?
It's like if I met the love of my life and then he turned around to me and was like, I'm a virgin, I've never had sex before, I'd be like, great, let's go.
Literally,
I've got a blank canvas to work with. Let's do it.
I can just teach you exactly what I like.
That's what I mean. It makes no difference. As long as you have a connection with someone, and whether that's someone you've known for 6 months or 6 minutes, who cares?
No, it is a completely different landscape of conversation for men and penis owners and women and vulva owners. And I am hoping one day, I don't think we'll be around anymore, but one day there will be a society where just it doesn't matter. But yeah, no, not. And also, I'm so kind of like out with my opinions. Like, let's talk about why that makes you feel uncomfortable, because that's really what it is, isn't it? If someone is judging you, it's like, what about this is making you feel uncomfortable? Is it because you've been brought up to believe that women should be having less sex with less people, or is it because somewhere deep within you, you want to be doing that, and the fact that someone else is comfortably and openly doing that, is that making you feel uncomfortable? Like, if you're truly honest with yourself, and is that really what the problem is?
That's such a good way of looking at it. And I think the reason it doesn't normally come up for what do your friends think about your body count is because most of our friends don't really care about the sex life we're having, because they're having their own.
It's true. Although I'm always
content with the sex life that they're, you know. Yeah, well, yeah. But like, whereas if your partner asks that question, you both have a invested interest in that, because you're about to have a
investment in each other.
Partnership. Yeah. So I kind of understand, but I think the way you've just described it is like the perfect answer to that question is like, if someone's asking you the question, it means that they have something to say about it before you've even given the answer.
100%. I come up with it with non-monogamy all the time. Sure. And I'm like, I feel like it makes you feel uncomfortable, either because it's just so far beyond your comprehension because of what society has told us. And that's okay. Like, we can talk about it and work to just sort of, I don't want to change. I'm not trying to turn everyone non-monogamous or polyamorous at all. People have got to do what feels right for them. But I'm like, if it's because it's just what you've been brought up to believe, we can definitely talk to expand the landscape of what you view as okay, although everything is okay, but or is it because there's something in you that maybe interests you, but it makes you feel, it creates some discomfort, and the thought of you ever having to maybe have that conversation with your friends? Because when I thought about just openly telling everyone, I mean, I tried to tell everyone that I didn't think I was monogamous literally almost 10 years ago, and people shut me right down.
Oh gosh.
And it took me until like last year to be like, this just is not who I am. I'm obviously not just going to be like, hi, I'm Peach and I am not monogamous.
I have this exact, because obviously I'm bisexual. I didn't have this day where I suddenly like told the world that I was bi.
I think like when you make those discoveries about your sexuality and your choice of sexual lifestyle, unless you are literally straight, you almost have to announce it.
Was that even just with me recently playing a queer character in a show? Do you know how many times people after the show would be like, but are you actually gay? I was like, oh goodness, I can't believe I'm having to answer that question. Like talking about my sexuality basically every night with complete strangers who I don't know, which is totally fine. But, you know, if I was straight, playing a straight character,
no one would ask.
People would do it. No one would ask.
It's like, I think I've told you that at the very beginning of the year, I was submitted for something. They said, oh, we're only seeing members of the LGBTQ plus community. And then I had to have like an awkward conversation with my agent.
Same.
Why would she be privy to that information about me? It was nothing to me to reply to that email and say, well, hey, listen. Whereas, for some people, they might not have that relationship with their agent and it might put them in a really difficult position. And for her, that was probably like awkward for her to have to even receive, because now she's like, I have to go back and sort of like out my client to this. But and I said, I'm fine for you to have that conversation with them. Of course I am. They said, but she's assumed straight.
For those of you listening, I just crumpled into a corner.
What do you mean? Who is assumed straight? So innocent until proven guilty, straight until proven queer. Yeah, exactly. I was like, what would help? Would you like, I don't know, previous...
Would you like me to film it?
Previous sex?
Send some references from previous sexual partners.
Yeah, right. Would you like me to get some of my previous female sexual partners to let you know that, yes, we have...
Could you imagine that phone call? It's just like, hi, sorry, we've not spoken in 6 years. Do you remember that time we fucked in my car? Yeah. Would you mind writing a reference for me? Thank you so much. Cheers, bye.
But do you know what? I felt like maybe I'm going to have to do that, because apparently no one believes that I'm... like, what, I don't know, like capable of having sex with a woman? I don't understand. Like, what is your problem? What do you mean assume straight?
Oh, goodness. You need to walk around with a strap on in your bag or something.
Do you know what, actually? That was another question for us this week. And again, I think it was aimed at me. But again, guys, you're getting like two for the price of one. Because the question is, do you prefer sex with men or women?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I don't have a preference, generally. Either. I don't have one. And that's such a boring answer, isn't it? But I just don't have one. If you were like, you can only have one for the rest of your life.
The thing is, I love having sex with women and vulva owners. I love it. And I would really struggle to live without that being a part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I struggle to be in a relationship with women and vulva owners because...
Yeah,
I almost struggle with the similarity. You know what I mean? It's almost like I like the challenge of being with a man or penis owner, because there are just so many things that are inherently differences.
Yeah.
And I've only ever been in one relationship with a woman, and it didn't end very well, because that was sort of my first exploration into sex with a woman or vulva owner. And I think they thought it had ended up being like a bit of an experiment, which obviously wasn't the case at all. But I did realize that I think that in terms of a long-term relationship, that wasn't going to work for me. So I'd still find it really difficult to choose, because, and it's one of the huge reasons that obviously non-monogamy works well for me, because even if I do have a partner and that partner is a male or a penis owner, I still have the freedom to explore that side of myself.
And that's funny. That's a question I always get asked by male partners. Is, oh, well, say we were in a relationship, would you just want to have sex with women?
Mm-hmm.
I believe I'm a monogamous relationship person. Well, right now, that's how I feel about things. And it's this idea that bisexual people are the most promiscuous people around, and just cannot control our sexual desires for the opposite sex and the same sex as well. Like, it's just the most bizarre thing to me that apparently if we're in a relationship with one, we constantly crave the other, like a vampire needing new blood. Like,
didn't
it's
you
just
find when you were
bizarre.
young? My secondary school was a performing arts school, and a lot of the men there were gay. But when they would have that moment of coming, it was almost like their friends would be like, "Well, mate, do you fancy me?" You know what I mean? That's people's like introduction into being gay, being bisexual, being pansexual. When you're that age and you're figuring things out, there's a lot of that reaction to it, isn't there? Like, well, then you must fancy everyone. And it was like, well, hold on. When I was straight, I didn't fancy every man. So now why, when I'm telling you that I'm bisexual, pansexual, queer, are you now assuming that I fancy everyone who is a woman and vulva owner too?
Yeah, it's like quite literally not the case. If anything, I'm more fussy. I don't go around fancying everyone. Like, it's just the most bizarre theory.
Well, I'll go with our last question, and then we've still got the polls.
Oh God.
The last question is actually quite a brilliant one.
Okay.
Any funny sexual experience stories? I already know my one, because obviously I had the questions before I read them out to you, so I already know mine.
The thing is if I say any of mine, like, I'm just going to out someone and I just feel bad.
Okay, I'll tell one while you tell.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have, listen, I say funny. It wasn't funny at the time.
Oh God.
I was hooking up with someone, a man, a penis owner, and I'm going to give some context. You've had a McDonald's milkshake, right?
Yes.
Okay, like, and we know how difficult it is to get a McDonald's milkshake up that straw.
Oh yeah,
like really difficult.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, he did that down there, and I ended up in hospital with bruising, with a bruised clitoris.
Oh
yeah,
God.
I'm like, they're like, any funny sexual stories? Is it funny? It's not funny. It's funny now. At the time, I was really in pain. Yeah, it was like swollen. But I did tell him to never do that to another woman ever again.
Ever again? Oh, bless him. He tried real hard.
But that's like a bold choice. Do you know what I mean?
That's really bold. Who told him to do that?
That's a bold.
Who endured that first?
Well, because I quite often think across the board, men penis owners, women vulva owners, when it comes to foreplay, people will quite often go with what their last, unless it, if people are single and they're just sort of flitting around, that's one thing. But if people have come out of a relationship, people will quite often tend to sort of lean towards what their previous partner might have liked.
Oh, completely, yeah.
I am like, maybe their previous partner was into this. I don't understand how, because I was in a roller coaster of pain.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, maybe that's something that's just going to happen for a second, and then we're going to like resume normal business.
Oh no.
But it just, like, baby, those milkshakes, like, that's the only way I can describe it. That
is serious strength. Oh.
And like those things,
I feel a bit funny just thinking about it.
8,000 nerve endings in them.
Yeah, he's killed off about 3,000 of those there, babe.
Now people are like, why isn't it working?
Is this thing on?
Do you know what? I'm always really offended in porn when people start slapping it. It makes me so sad. I'm like, why is this happening? But
why are you hitting it?
Right, but it happens, right?
Oh, it does.
You see, like, people like aggressively hitting someone's
tit,
and I'm like,
aggressively
why
hit my
doing
tits
this?
once.
But
you would just start slapping my tits.
That's survivable.
That's survivable, but I'm still like, what are you doing?
It's one of my worst things is seeing porn and seeing that aggressive. And I wouldn't like it if someone did that to me. So that's not. If
someone did that to me, I'd be like, "Excuse me, sir, what did she do to you?"
Everyone is into different things, so maybe that would work. I'm sure that would work for someone. But
yeah, completely.
I am quite a sensitive little gal down there, so hence the wanks through the underwear. So I, ended up in hospital. I know.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
It's quite funny. It was painful to even walk. Like, I couldn't really have anything be like down there for a couple of weeks until the swelling and the bruising went down. It is funny though. It wasn't at the but the thing is, even at the time, about a week later, I was telling people like it was a pup story that was funny for anyone to listen to. So.
Well, and this is it: is all the fails do become the funnies eventually.
Have you thought of one?
I'm trying. Like, honestly, most of my sexual experiences have been kind of fine. Like, I've got a couple here and there that are like, oh god, I wish I'd never done that. I have a couple here and there that were absolute mega fails.
Funnies.
Not many funnies. I mean, there's the classic like fanny farts that never stop.
Which again, no one talks about that.
When it starts, I just remember there was one time where we'd finished and it just wouldn't stop.
After is worse.
It's like, yeah, so like, you know, usually it happens when you've been doing like, doggy and then you like flip back around or something. And like we'd finish, or like the last few, you know, goes, it'd been a bit like a sort of mini one that I thought no one would have noticed. And then like at the end it was just non-stop, all out fatty farts.
Just relentless.
And it's that thing of like, you try and get off the bed without making a noise, but it gets worse. And then you try and run to the bathroom and it's like...
I can feel, so like if I'm having sex with someone, I can actually feel, and
when it's coming.
Not when it's coming, I can literally feel like an air bubble get pushed into me, and I'm like, and sometimes it almost feels trapped, and I feel like I'm having sex with someone and it almost feels like they are like pushing against it, and it's just kind of it kind of, I don't even know if that's a thing. Maybe I should find out if that's okay. But I sort of like feel it.
You're there like collecting air.
I feel it, and it literally feels like a little bubble, like just somewhere existing in there. Like I feel the moment that air gets pushed in, because obviously that's all it is. Like I almost feel.
Oh yeah. To clarify, before anyone gets confused, a fanny fart is not an actual fart.
It's your fault.
It's your fault. Yeah, it's air getting trapped in the vagina and it releases again.
But, yeah, in terms of other funny, that's like a hard one.
It's really hard because actually, like the funny ones are normally just because like you knock heads or something.
I've had sex with people where like we've ended up in like a full laughing fit, but it wouldn't be funny to anyone else because they don't really get it.
No, exactly. It's funny because like in the moment it's hilarious because it's all serious, then suddenly one of you like sneezes or something. Like I think that's what a lot of people seem to forget as well, is sex should be 100%. Fun and enjoyable. It doesn't have to be super serious, you know.
I think
it's not like super intense.
I take it seriously because I'm like, we're in this together and like I'm doing this with you, but for me, like it's playtime.
Completely. And I think if you can't laugh at having sex, then you know you need to be comfortable enough to laugh at yourself.
Sometimes a dodgy tune can come on. You know what I mean? You can have a rogue Spotify like shuffle on and you can be like mid-bang.
Oh my God, I've just remembered a funny story.
Because you could be like mid-bang and then like, I don't know, like Anything Goes comes on the Spotify shuffle and you're like, we don't need this.
You're going to hate this. Are you ready?
Oh my God,
you're going to hate this. Oh God, this is another one of my classic stories. I can't believe I forgot this. All the friends will know this one. So this was a few years ago and I was in a French musical at the time that's really well known. And I just finished the show and was on my way home, and I was also in the show with one of my housemates, and he convinced me, well, I was a bit like, oh, like I'm a little bit like frisky. He was like, oh, like message someone on Tinder and just get him to come over. Because he's, you know, very sexually open, liberated as well. And, you know, so we were both as bad as each other, really. And I was like, good idea. I'd been messaging someone on Tinder a couple of days and I said to him, I was like, oh, come over. Like, what are you doing? He was like, actually, yeah, I'm free. Bearing in mind the show comes down at 10:30. So I got home at 11:30. This guy, I've like got music on in my room.
You've set the scene.
Poured a couple of drinks.
We spoke about earlier, you've set the scene.
I've set the scene. Yeah. And then this guy shows up at my door. And then, so we're just chilling in my room, we're having a drink and we're chatting and stuff and some music on. And he knew that I was an actor, like we'd spoken before, and I'd said that I was in that French show. And he was like, can I put a song on? I was like, yeah, go for it.
No.
He puts
on, God, he was the lamest
Lovely
fan.
Ladies.
Oh my God, he has a lamest
He puts on Lovely Ladies. Anyway, the song that the French prostitutes sing to lure the sailors in to have sex with them, that was his song of choice to set the mood. I literally was staring at him like, are you well? Is everything okay? Anyway, long story short, Rita, I had sex with him because I just didn't know what else to do. It's one of those ones that I was like, oh, I shouldn't have, but he was there, and I was like, well, I made all this effort to come here, and I feel bad kicking him out after he's sat here and played me the lamest soundtrack.
like you didn't know
that was
every single word.
Exactly, I'd literally been singing it 3 hours previously.
Yeah, no, that's if someone like came into my room and played Popular, I'd be like, I'm gonna need you to leave my house, and maybe not just my house, maybe the country. Die now.
You know what? As you say, any fails are funny. Not every most fails are funny anyway. And you know now what? I can look back and laugh. At the time,
that was a good story. To be fair,
it was. I'm glad I remembered it because I was really sad that I didn't have any good funny ones.
Between a bruised clit and lovely ladies, we've all been having a fantastic time.
I know, fantastic time.
Back to statistics. Do you know that? Not really statistics. Do you know that the ability to orgasm can be genetic? Because I did not.
I did not. Yeah. That's really interesting. Though apparently, I've read somewhere as well. You know those dimples that some people have in their lower back.
Yeah, I have them.
I have them too. And apparently if you have them, you're more likely to orgasm through penetration because it's something to do with your tendons running through your pelvis.
Gosh, I've never heard that before. How interesting.
I know.
I mean, I don't orgasm all that much through penetration, so maybe my dimples are just on cutting it. But
I mean, I don't think it means you do it every time, but I've heard it's like you're more likely to.
Because I remember reading an article that was like, if you feel like you need to pee, push through. So then like I actually had sex so many times where I was like, I really feel like I need to wee, but if I push through it means I'm going to have an orgasm.
Oh no.
And then I didn't. So and I just was like, I think maybe I just need to wee.
Yeah. Oh no. So many myths like that though. I keep seeing again on TikTok, girls being like they drink 2 or 3 liters of water before sex, then they're more likely to squirt. And I'm like, Hans, that's not how it works. If you're just drinking a ton of water and then apparently squirting, you're probably just pissing on people.
You're probably just weeing that water back out.
You're literally just weeing on people.
So I had a question which wasn't for this episode, but because we're talking about squirting and things like that, and we've talked about this because we talked about this when we were having drinks, that they get nervous when it comes to oral sex because they worry about, which I think is a really common thing, especially with women and vulva owners. They worry about smell and they worry about taste and like, do I have any advice? So this was just a question that was randomly sent to me, and we're talking about squirting, so it seems to make sense that we would talk about it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to masturbation, and also if you are someone who is happy to give a blowjob or oral sex to a man or a penis owner, and you are happy to swallow their cum, well then baby, you can taste your own. If you want to know how you taste,
go for it. Like seriously,
if you want to know how you
much
taste,
easier for us to do it than for boys anyway.
You can find that information. Luckily, you can find that information out, and I think that is going to make a lot of people feel very uncomfortable.
Sure, I get
because we're definitely not taught that.
Well, we're also like, how many people have actually sat and had a look at their own vagina?
Well, quite.
Get a mirror out, have a look. Yeah. Because why are you so afraid of it? It's literally part of your body.
And also, like, you need to know where everything is so that you can tell someone else where everything is.
And also, like, just for a health reason, like, you need to know if something isn't right down there. You need to know if
different.
There's changes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so if you're not checking, just as we're asked to check our boobs, like, you should be looking at your vagina, especially if you have a frequent sexual partner, or you have multiple sexual partners, as well as getting tested. Like, you should just check yourself out every now and then, because you never know. Like, honestly, and a lot of these sexually transmitted diseases don't have symptoms, but some of them do. Just get to know yourself. But in terms of the oral smell kind of stuff, I think it's absolutely bollocks that they create perfumes and deodorants and wipes and shower gels that are specifically for your vagina. It's rubbish. You don't need to use anything special. Yeah. Just clean yourself like you clean any other part of your body, just as you would hope that any other partner would clean themselves before having sex with you, or just going about their general day. And ultimately, as you say, get to know yourself, because if you notice that something's wrong, then you can go to the nurse, you can go to the GP, you can have a conversation about it. Exactly.
I completely agree. And also, like, I've known people in the past in relationships who, like, won't even kiss the other partner, like, after the other has given them oral sex. And I'm like,
oh my God, what? That's like my favourite thing to do. I know that's a weird thing to say.
Not a weird thing
I know that's like the weirdest thing to say, but I love doing that. I'm like, yeah, I appreciate you. I'm going to kiss you now.
Yeah, and also like vice versa.
I do it back too.
If I had like just given someone a blowjob and like politely swallowed, and then they were like, don't kiss me, I'd be like, I'm leaving. What do you mean? I think that question came, obviously, I think it came from a woman and a vulva owner. But I say this to men and penis owners too. If you want to know what we're swallowing, darling, you can taste it. And if you're willing to taste someone else's bodily fluid, why are you not willing to taste your own? Like, I mean, like, I'm not here like drinking my cum. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But like, I know
you could have a smell and you can have a little.
I know like, and even like, and this is getting really like into it, the way your body changes. Like, it's quite common for women, if they are about to come on their period, for them to taste a little more metallic, like things like that. And like, we're not having these conversations. And like, so people aren't aware of like just natural body movements and things that are like completely normal. And I say this as someone who, for years before I just got over myself, I used to be obsessed with this body moisturizer called Love Spell. I won't say the brand because I don't know if I can. And if I was about to like get sexual with anyone, I'd literally go and like rub it on myself so it smelled like fucking peach and cherry blossom. But you know what? Moisturizers just don't fucking taste that good. So like, I don't know what I was thinking, because that was probably like not the best experience. And then just got over myself and I was like, listen, bodies are natural. They're going to do what they're going to do and it's all going to be fine. And also, I am actually like intrigued, like what someone experiences if they are going down on me or this or the other. And now I know, and I'm like, well, I'm okay with it. So
honestly, like, I think the more we just get to know ourselves, the better, right? Because also like the length of your cervix changes dependent on where you are in your cycle.
Right.
But essentially, when we are closer to ovulation, the distance, your vagina basically distance gets shorter, which is why sometimes when you have sex with a partner, it can really hurt, and other times it feels fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because it changes. And
I didn't know that either.
So if sometimes at different points in your cycle you have a little feel around in there, which I encourage everyone to do, because I think it's also really important for cervical health to just check on that stuff. You and I, we've had a discussion before, but I have a cervical. Yeah, I've got a cervical issue. I have something called cervical ectropy, which is really common, but it basically means that I have cervical tissue that is present, that's more obvious and like less hidden in my vagina. So sometimes I bleed during sex. I only found that out because I was bleeding crazy amounts during sex, and I was literally like, oh my God, am I going to die? And no, I just have this condition. So now I know, like, okay, well, at certain points in my cycle, I might be more likely to bleed during sex with a partner, and I just have to be aware of that and also communicate that with my partners. If I didn't, A, have a little explore around, and B, go and talk to my nurse about it, I just wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And so it's just so important to not be afraid of it.
So
because
important. I actually found out the other day I have a healthy cervix for the first time since 2009. Woo! No problems. And that has not been the case for me for a long time. And like, you know, even it's been difficult because obviously sex is a huge part of my life. And I've always had to really keep all of that stuff in mind and really stay on top of it, because sexual health in terms of cervical issues and literal like cervical cancer issues have not been easy for me, and they've been like problematic over the years, but we've stayed on top of it, and here we are, healthy cervix for the first time since 2009.
But okay, on this note though, and I know we're meant to be talking about oral sex, my cat has joined me by the way, all women and vulva owners, please go and get your smear tests.
100%.
If you are listening to this right now and you haven't had your smear test in the last 2 years, I think it is, and you're over the age of 25, call your GP.
Should we do some would you rathers?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so I put out some would you rather polls on my Instagram, and they turned into some healthy debates actually with also some of my straight male friends.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just thought it might be a fun way to end this episode.
Okay.
So Kayleigh doesn't know what the would you rathers are, so
no, I've not.
We're going to go with them, and I'm going to also release the results, which I haven't, on my Instagram. So here we go. Would you rather only be able to have sex in 5-minute increments or 5-hour increments?
5 minutes.
Really? So you're with the majority. 125 people voted 5 minutes and 39 voted 5 hours.
My reasoning here is that I quite like a quick naughty shag.
Okay.
And I think 5 hours of sex would just be horrific. But also,
but
you could
that
do 5
includes
minutes
everything.
on. True, but maybe you do 5 minutes on and then you have like a 5 minute
But I'm
breather,
just
and then
not
5 minutes on, and
orgasming
then
in
5
5 minutes, whatever we're doing.
No, but maybe
with
it's
a toy. Maybe get the toy involved.
true. But maybe it's it's called edging, isn't it?
Yeah, it is called edging. Big fan. I love
technical
Big
term.
fan of edging.
But it's basically edging, right?
Yeah. You could do 5 minutes on, 1 minute off, and then do another 5 minutes, or even
exactly.
But there's nothing to actually. That's a good point. I didn't think of that. There's nothing to say that you can't just get straight back to it.
Work smarter, not harder, Peach.
You could do 5 minutes, 30 seconds off. I chose 5 hours.
I'm gonna get you some like Savlon.
No, but I didn't think of it
for the chafing.
I didn't think of it as 5 hours of like straight raw dogging penetrative sex. I thought of it as 5 hours from like making out, and then maybe
I
you
see.
get a bit handsy, and that, you know what I mean.
It's still a really long time. Do you not get hungry?
With breaks.
Yeah, you do. Like, I need a snack. I could do it if there was snacks and water nearby.
But listen, I'm a big fan of your theory, so I'm going to change my answer to 5 minutes because I'm here for that. And also, I love edging. So anyone who hasn't tried it or who doesn't know what it is, so it's basically getting each other closer to the point of orgasm each time and then stopping. But sometimes edging, like people who are fully into tantra, people will be edging for days.
Oh yeah,
and I would lose my mind. But then also part of me is like, I want to try it. But when I'm at that point where I'm like just about to, and then it gets taken away, like I feel like I could murder. You know what I mean? So I just don't know.
If I ever see you in the news in like 20 years' time, you've been arrested for murdering some poor person, I'll be like, I know how it happened. I know the motive.
Oh, right. But anyway, if anyone hasn't tried it, and I think that's a really good thing for people in long-term relationships as well to try, because, you know, it's not,
agreed.
It's just like a new way to sort of like invigorate something new into your relationship. If you haven't tried it before, you might be really into it. But if you haven't,
like, could you imagine trying that like throughout a whole day if you're a couple? Like you've got a Sunday at home chilling, and then like the whole day is just like doing
just
that.
Winding each other up. Like even the thought of it like makes me feel like I'm going mad. I also heavily encourage those partner toys. Although listen,
the little remote controlled one. I've never used one, but I definitely would love to.
I did wear one at a press night, and my partner at the time thought it was really fun to turn it on while I was talking to my agent, who is not my agent now, my old agent at the time. And it was
not
it
ideal.
Was stressful, but however they are really fun. So I really, really think that's a really fun thing to try. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Would you rather have regular mediocre sex your whole life or amazing sex every few years?
Oh, that's really hard.
Considering like my entire premise of both my life and podcast is you don't have to have sex that feels regular or mediocre for you. This question really stresses me out.
It's stressing me out. I feel like
are you going to just be like, I will furiously masturbate and then have amazing sex every
Precisely. That's what I'm trying to weigh up here. I'm trying to weigh it up. I feel like I'm going to go for the amazing sex every few years.
Once again, you are with the majority. 104 people voted for that, and 43 people voted regular mediocre sex your whole life.
I just don't think there's any point in mediocre sex, which is precisely why this podcast exists.
Yeah, and just like literally invest in like the best toys of your life for the other couple of years. It makes that feels painful. Let's just move on, actually, because
we didn't like that one.
This is one of those ones where I'm like, can't bear it, it's too stressful, moving on. For me, there's only one answer to this next one. Like, this is madness to me. Would you rather have an extremely loud orgasm every time you were near a piece of fruit or never have an orgasm again? Obviously it's the fruit.
Yeah, I was going to say fruit, but I'm just imagining, like, can you imagine going to like a family barbecue and someone's like,
a bowl of
here's the
strawberries.
fruit salad. Like, oh!
But surely that you'd rather never have an orgasm again. Well, like, what would I do with my time? What would I do with my life?
No, because also just like, no, I would definitely orgasm near the fruit. It would be an interesting existence.
But you'd get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did the people say?
132 people voted for loud orgasm near fruit. And 16 people voted for never orgasm again. So that was like a quiz on Instagram. And then I realised you could do polls. So actually I had lots more votes on the polls. Okay,
God, okay.
Would you rather only ever have sex on top or only ever have sex on bottom?
Bottom.
Great.
Purely because my knees can't take it.
So 419 people voted. 419. I know.
Okay.
63% only ever on bottom and 37% only ever on top. So this is actually one of the ones that I had a conversation. So one of my very, very close male friends, I saw that they had chosen only ever on bottom. And I was like, okay. I was like, let's talk about this. And so we got into a debate and he was with another male friend of his. I just said, my theory on this is that to be a woman and vulva owner on top and have a man and penis owner on bottom, the other way around, to have a male penis owner on top and a female vulva owner on bottom, it just offers more options.
Variety, yes.
I would also consider things like doggy style as man or penis owner on top.
Yeah.
So agreed. I was like, I feel like if we're talking about the whole scope of sexual positions, it's not that I'm saying I want to be on bottom in missionary forever.
Oh, yeah.
That's not my choice. That's not my reasoning behind the choice. My point is, I just think that for the female and vulva owner to be on bottom just offers us more options across the board. And they both were like, you've pled your case and we've changed our minds. And we now agree. Okay, so next one. Would you rather no foreplay and only penetrative sex, or only floor play, only foreplay and no penetrative sex?
I'm going to say foreplay, no peno.
Yeah. So 418 people voted, 38% no foreplay, only penetration, and 62% only foreplay, no penetration.
That's higher than I thought it would be for the only penetration. Like, as in that's more of a closest. Yeah.
Okay, so it was majority men.
I knew it. I was about to say, were they all men?
They weren't all men, actually. They weren't all men. But to be fair, so one of my very, very, very close friends, actually, she orgasms every time through penetrative sex, but not really through clitoral stimulation. So obviously, if you are someone and that is the primary way that you orgasm, great.
Good for you,
I just think, again, there's just so much variety in foreplay. You can get so many things involved.
Agreed.
Anyway, so again, I saw that my very, very close straight male friend had voted only penetration, which obviously makes sense because he's a man. But we were already talking about these would you rather things. And I was like, but you know that 18% of women as well, he's welcome to make his choice and his choice is valid. But I was like, but you know that only 18% of women orgasm through penetration. Are you saying that you're happy to choose only penetration and potentially live your life never making an orgasm ever again?
He was like, yeah.
And I didn't win this one because they were like, we're talking a would you rather, this is gun to your head situation, you would probably put yourself first.
But they're saying they would never want a blowjob.
That's on them.
I thought blowjobs were king. Do you know what I mean?
Even in terms of giving, I would still choose the foreplay because I love all of the things that come with it.
There's just so much more, like you say, there's more variety, it's more to play with.
And then in my head, I'm like, penetration is just bang, bang, bang. And then foreplay is all of the other things that exist in the universe.
Pretty much.
So anyway.
You're not wrong.
62%. Would you rather? Would you rather sex always be completely silent or have to scream at the top of your lungs from start to finish?
From the very beginning, like as soon as it starts, you're like, ah!
I was just in conversation with this male friend at this point because I have a sexual past with them. I don't know why I took it personally that they had voted silent, and I was like, I feel attacked. It's not even anything to do with me. But I'm not a screamer from start to finish, but I'm definitely not a silent person. So this is really difficult for me.
But I actually think I'm going to go for silence.
And also, I feel like I need to write to the gods of Would You Rather and be like, I need some clarification, because are we talking like like screaming, or are we talking like sex screams?
I feel like I read it as in you're literally screaming. Yeah. I'm going to go for silence purely for my neighbour's sake. I don't know. Keeping it quiet can be kind of sexy if you're like, shh, no one can hear us, kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess
the
you could turn it
screaming
into
from beginning
nice.
to end could just be really fucking annoying. Also, could you imagine like both of you just like screaming, a man on top of you, like
just the whole time? Okay, you know what? You've convinced me. You're right.
You can't say.
And 414 people voted. 57% silent. 43% scream from start to finish.
What?
But maybe they're thinking more like a sex scream, which I'm not going to do an impression of. Closer than I would have thought.
Sorry. Closer than I would have thought. I'm sorry, but just the image of just a man
like just the screaming competition. But also, it doesn't necessarily say that your partner has to scream from start to finish, so I don't know what would be more awkward, if you're screaming at each other or you are screaming at them and they're just like, okay.
I am fully gone at that one. Ooh,
right.
Goodness.
Would you rather end up with a partner who doesn't kiss you, or end up with a partner who doesn't give you oral?
Oh, hell. Oh, I'm gonna say no oral, and I want kisses. Yeah, I am.
Are you actually?
I actually am, because there's kissing is so intimate, right?
It's so important. I do agree.
And like that has to be there. Like if you don't have that, then there's just like a part of that connection is missing.
Sure.
Whereas like it would pain me, but at least I've got my satisfier to sort me out.
Oh, gosh, I'm kind of like a live by the oral, die by the oral kind of gal. You know what I mean?
You need that on a t-shirt.
I'd really struggle. That's absolutely like my main way to orgasm.
Oh yeah, completely.
Like,
it's like
I'm
my favorite
literally
thing.
obsessed with oral both ways. I just fucking love it.
Agreed.
Like I spoke with Katie, I was surprised that the second favorite sex position in the UK was a 69. But I love a 69. I would really struggle.
Oh, it's hard.
But I can't, like, no kissing.
You've got to pick one, Peach.
Oh, God.
You've got to pick one.
I'm picking no kissing. I'm sorry, I don't care. Live by the oral, die by the oral. I don't care. Sorry.
That needs to be a hashtag.
The results are in.
We could live vicariously through each other.
It's true. We can talk to each other about the other. So 421 people voted. 39% voted no kissing. 61% voted no oral.
Again, these are much closer than I thought they would be.
I know, I do agree. Final one.
Very interesting. Okay, let's go.
Would you rather mix it up in bed every single night, or stick to a tried and tested routine?
Mix it up.
Agree, because
every night.
I was like, there's so much scope to that, because it could be, can you go 1 second faster than normal?
But even if it was like super extreme, like one day you're role playing being in a dentist place.
Sure.
What's it called? A dental surgery. The next day you are being pegged. The day after is bondage night.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think sex shouldn't be something that's convenient and
routine.
Like routine. Yeah. I think sex should be something that is, as we said, it's play, it's fun, it's exciting. It should be, if you fall into a routine, there's nothing wrong with that, but I think it's very easy to see why people can become unsatisfied with their sex lives because they do fall into a routine.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think for me, mix it up all the way, baby.
So the results were basically the same as the previous question, but the other way round. So mix it up was 61%, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it, 39%. Which again, I was surprised. Very. Because mix it up could really be as little as just trying a different position.
One day you just start screaming the entire time.
Yeah, you could literally try all of the other things that have been suggested in the Would You Rathers. You could text your family and let them know that you're masturbating.
Let them know you're having sex. Oh.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking to me today. And listen, to anyone listening, it's been a funny episode and we've had lots of jokes. But what I need you to know is that Kayleigh and I are both strong promoters of proud, promiscuous women who love masturbation, who are all about female pleasure and orgasms. And so
live by the oral, die by the oral.
Live by the oral, die by the oral, or as Kayleigh might say, live by the satisfier, die by the satisfier. But, you know, so if anyone wants to reach out to either of us with any further questions, and of course, we've had fun this episode, and I hope that you've had fun too. And I hope that you might feel a bit more open to go and talk with your friends about orgasms, or you might feel like you want to try masturbation or something new within your masturbation, as apparently I need to try a new position and Kayleigh needs to try a new vibrator. But there's always space to keep trying new things. And so I hope that maybe you just feel like you now have the space to discuss these things, or maybe you're going to go and taste yourself.
Oh.
Which always sounds so weird, but I really mean it.
You know what? Don't knock it till you've tried it.
Listen,
quite literally.
You might love it. You might just be like, cool, I'm glad to know that's what other people are dealing with, and now I'm going to move on from that. But Kayleigh, would you mind dropping your social medias in case anyone would like to reach out to you after this episode?
Absolutely. I'm on all of them under the same handle because I am very easy.
That does actually make life much easier.
So it's Kayleigh, but it's OHHKAELI.
Oh, Kayleigh.
Oh, Kayleigh. Yeah, that is what I am on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the lot.
And listen, if anyone out there ever feels insecure about body count, we've got you.
We've got you.
Do
Don't
not
worry.
need to be insecure. Any questions that you've got about even queerness, anything like that,
Please
send them our way, because we hear you, we see you, we've got you, and
nothing's weird.
And nothing's weird. There's no judgment here.
None.
But thank you so much for coming on and being
another
flag flyer for prioritizing pleasure.
Always.
And it's been amazing having you on. You've been an absolute dream. And hopefully everyone can laugh along with our
I hope so.
With our giggles. Well, that was quite the long episode today, and as much as there were a lot of giggles, I really hope that there was something to be taken from it, in that sex isn't like something out of a movie. Sometimes you end up with a bruised clitoris. But genuinely, thank you so much to Kayleigh for coming on today and being another guest who has been willing to be open and honest and transparent, because I just think the more voices that people hear experiencing what real sex is like, the more comfortable and confident we are all going to be having those conversations and also having those experiences. So even if this episode encourages you to try masturbating for the first time or try a toy for the first time, then we've done what we came here to do. As always, I'm so grateful to anyone who listened today, and I hope to see you back here next week. Thanks for coming. Thank you for tuning in to Sex on the Peach today, and I hope that you enjoyed this week's episode. You can find and follow me on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok at Sex on the Peach Cast, and you can also get in touch with me at sexonthepeachcast@gmail.com. Please do continue to like, share, subscribe, rate and review wherever you listen to your podcasts, and I'll see you next week. Love, Peach.